welcome to Virtual Sewing Room in conversation with, and today I'm joined by
Yvette. So I'm the co-founder of the StashHub Sewing Organizer app, but I guess you might also follow me as Blossom Sandwich, which is my personal account as well.
and you're also part of Sewing Group. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yep, so I'm also one of the people who runs SurreySews. So I run that Instagram account as well. So basically, if you're on the gram, I'm probably there on your feed. But yeah, so SurreySews is kind of a local sewing meetup group basically, and we do different things each month to meet up with fellow sewists. So it's really good fun, and I've met up with loads of people who are also in the virtual sewing room. So Eleanor's also involved in organising Surrey Sew. She's great. And B is on the team starting this year. She's really helpful, amazing. Mel as well, Mel Keane, I'm sure some people will know. So yeah, loads of Surrey people are all quite local to me, which is amazing. And yeah, that all started because I met Mel through someone else, Sarah, who's Super Bales on Instagram. She's quite local to me as well, and she had donated a bunch of fabrics to Mel when she was doing the refugee sewing project, and I was like, oh, Guildford, that's quite close to me. And yeah, I just sort of connected with Mel through that, and Mel was like, oh, we should set up a sewing group, and it all kind of went from there. And yeah, this SewFizzTeaCated event last autumn was massive as well, so we're planning to do that again in October. So
Tell
yeah,
people
it's really
what
fun.
SewFizzTeaCated is.
Yeah. So you have to put it on the screen to like spell it out. Um, I wasn't involved in the naming, but I think it is quite fun. So yeah, basically it's a sewist's afternoon tea event, because there's loads of events happening in the sewing community, but a lot of them are in London or in other places, and they're in the evenings as well. So if you have to travel, it's quite difficult to go because then you have to find somewhere to stay as well. And it can get really expensive. So we wanted to do something kind of in the daytime to make it easier for people who had to travel, and also easier for people who didn't necessarily want to drink as well. So with an afternoon tea, obviously you can go for the tea or you can go for the bubbly. So yeah, that was a sort of concept of the afternoon tea, and also just the vibes of it are a bit more lower key than like a ball or something, because you don't have to wear a very extravagant outfit for an afternoon tea if you don't want to. We did have a lot of extravagant outfits because obviously a lot of sewists, they relish that chance to make something a bit out of the ordinary. But yeah, we had a catwalk and we had a really good buffet. We had a great prize draw as well. There was like so many prizes. It was amazing.
Massive prize draw. Just like it was that whole section of I think, yeah, you guys who organise it, just reading out like the raffle tickets, because everyone got a raffle ticket when they walked in. Like never ending. You just had so many prizes donated to you. It was really good. And I remember I was thinking about it because I've just started cutting out another zero waste pattern, but someone won the zero waste book by Birgitte Helmerson. And I snuck over to the person, was like, you're gonna love it. I've made this and this and this, like, and they got quite excited. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, that's a good prize. Like, I would have been overjoyed, but I already have it, so it's fine. Have you got the date in the diary for 2025? Is
I do, but not off the top of my head. Let me look it up.
I want it.
18th of October.
Is that
All
right?
right. Yes, it is.
Oh, so the 18th of October, and where is it being hosted?
We will hopefully do it again in Woking at the Lighthouse, which is where Mel volunteers. So they were very generous and let us use the space for free. And the tickets that were sold raised money for the work they do at the Lighthouse, which includes the new sewing project that Mel and Eleanor and Kathy all work on to help people from the women's shelter, have some relaxing sewing time. So yeah, we'll hopefully do it there. So it will either be at the same venue as last time or somewhere else in Woking, because there are plans to like redevelop that area, but that was supposed to happen before Christmas. So I don't know what's happening with those plans yet. So they have a different temporary venue lined up, and then also the new place whenever that gets built. So we don't know yet, but probably around Woking, which is quite easy to get to on the train. So
Yeah, it was super close to the station. And as we're talking about SurreySews and meetups, we're recording this just after we've had the Walthamstow trip. So do you want to share some of the purchases that you made on Saturday?
yeah, definitely. So it was so, I don't know if you found this, Jenny, but it was like fabric overwhelm there. There was so much. But I was quite good. I didn't get too much. So I got this green kind of cottony twill type fabric, which I think will be good for bottoms. I could even maybe wear it with this top. I mean, rainbows are neutral. Rainbow goes with everything, doesn't it? So yeah, I think these will be good for some trousers. So I'm thinking maybe I want to say Peggy trousers by Sew Over It. They've got like pleats in the front and then elastic in the back, which is they're kind of similar to the Chandler pants, if anyone's made those, but I just could not get the shape of Chandler's to work for my body. But the Sew Over It block fits me quite well. So I'll at least be at a good starting point for those trousers. And then this was my second fabric purchase. I just could not resist this.
It's like very Yvette.
Yeah, I just love like an outlined floral. I just think it's so bold. And obviously the green and the blue, we'll probably come back to that in the feed round, but they're my colours. So I've got a few vintage patterns that I inherited from Doug's gran. So I'd like to make some of those. So maybe this will be good for like a vintagey pattern, because a lot of the patterns are sort of 60s, 70s. And I feel like this is quite a sort of 60s, 70s vibe. We've got another fabric on my sort of to pre-wash pile. Do you want to see that one as well?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah.
This is my preparing ahead for Sew Yellow for Endo.
Yeah.
Which is the challenge that Jess at So What If I Sew hosts. I've got some like turquoise buttons, sort of this colour from Ethel and Joan. So I'm thinking a patina blouse from Friday Pattern Company. This is like a Indian block print fabric, so it's like really nice and lightweight. So I think that'll be good for like the spring, if we ever like make it out of the endless winter.
You mentioned challenge. Are you running the So Fruity challenge again this year?
Yeah. So I've run it I feel like it's going to be my 5th year maybe of running it. So I ran it for the first time in 2021. So just before I go into the sort of backstory, So Fruity is a very simple sewing challenge where you sew something with a fruit theme. It doesn't have to be a garment, it can be anything. And it doesn't have to be like a fruit print. It could be a fruity color or like a fruity shape if you wanted to make something spherical like an orange. I don't know, you can get creative.
Someone had buttons last year, like I can't remember what the fabric was, but it wasn't fruity, but the emphasis was on the buttons, and they were very
I feel like So Let Sparkle with Sam might have done a button one.
Yeah,
maybe a Zoe dress. I feel like that's quite a classic for her.
Yeah.
Good guess. But yeah, so basically anything fruity, if you can make something that's not fruity with like a bit of embroidery or whatever, yeah, go for it. Because I just didn't want to like exclude people from the challenge if they're like someone who doesn't wear prints. I mean, obviously not wearing prints is like not something that I can relate to, but I know that there are people out there that prefer, you know, more muted palettes and not, you know, silly prints. So I thought if we have it more open, people can sort of interpret how they like. There's a really nice embroidered kind of gauzy fabric in Guthrie Ghani right now that I'm really tempted by.
With the little like cross stitch, we were talking about it on a session 2 days prior to today, and I brought it up again this morning, and someone on the session, because we were talking about it, panicked that people were talking about it was going to sell out, so they ended up quickly buying it. It was already in their shopping basket, but it pushed them over the edge in buying it. So
nice.
Yeah.
So we've got at least one person who's got no excuse to join in with So Fruity then. If they still got that fabric by June. So yeah, I originally started the challenge like in 2021, and I didn't really intend for it to be like a challenge. I just wanted to do it for myself. I mean, this is kind of a theme because it's a similar story with StashHub, but we'll probably get onto that. But yeah, it was 2021. We're still quite deep in the pandemic. I think I might have still been on furlough or like working part-time, something like that. Anyway, I was really like into the sewing community online because that was the only thing that was like not causing me extreme anxiety. So yeah, I was just like deep in the sewing community. I'd seen like loads of challenges happening. I think it had been like in March, it had been like the So Frugal challenge and So Yellow for Endo, and I was just feeling like really inspired. And I had this fruit fabric in my stash, or maybe even a few different prints with fruits on. And I thought, like, I just sort of jokingly did some stories like, oh, I want to sew these fruit fabrics. Maybe I should do a challenge, lol. And then some people were like, yeah, I've got some fruit fabrics. I'll join you in the challenge. And like I had, maybe like 6 or 7 people that I was DMing at the time, and they were all like, go for it, do a challenge. So then, yeah, that was So Fruity #1. I mean, it was called Fruit Salad Sewing that year, which I decided to change the name because it was not that easy to remember and it was quite a long hashtag. So like it was easy to spell wrong, or sewing fruit salad people would put instead of fruit salad sewing. So yeah, I did change the name, but the concept was there, and I had about 80 people join in the first time, which I thought was really good because I didn't have very many followers on Instagram at the time, and I kind of wasn't expecting it to like be a thing. Didn't have any prizes or anything. I was just like, just making my fruity projects. And it was in April that year, which was a bit early really for fruit print stuff because I feel like a lot of it came out later that summer, and I was like, oh, missed it for this year So Fruity. So then I just relaunched it as So Fruity 24, and then this year will be So Fruity. I don't know, I can't even remember how many years I've done it. Maybe I've got it wrong, but yeah, I definitely did it in 22, 23 and 24. So yeah, I've done in one of the years, like, because people were posting throughout the month. So I did like a racing bar graph of which fruits were in the lead. So like my background is as a scientist. I'm a bit of a nerd. I quite like data, and watching that little racing bar graph was quite exciting. And then you're like, oh, kiwi's come in. Oh no, he's dropped off again. It was quite closely fought between I think strawberry, lemon, and then fruit salad, which was the mix. And so they're all racing up to the end, and all the sort of irrelevant blueberries just playing about with the kiwis in the bottom. So that was quite good fun. That was entertainment for me if no one else enjoyed it.
To be fair, I was thinking, I remember that from last year's one, was trying to like guess which one was going to come out top, because Fabric Godmother had, was it cherry fabric that they released, or was it strawberries? They released something,
Yeah, I
and
can't
I think that
remember.
was the one that won, because I think it's such popular print that, yeah, just
Yeah, it does really, it's interesting because it does get very impacted by fabrics that come out, because you'll see the same fabric popping up a lot of times, but also it's been really consistent. Like for 22, 23 and 24 have had like the exact same top three, but in like a different order each time, but like the same fruits are always like the top ones. So yeah, maybe we're putting a link to that post if anyone wants to see the data, because yeah, the first year was different, but I also think the sample size was too small, so we just ignore that one and say you're consistent in the fruits that you like.
that was just the pilot year. But yeah, and that, I think the stats of that, obviously reflect well within StashHub, that there's a stats section, which I'm not the biggest StashHub user. I'm slowly still growing all the bits and pieces in there, but I always do like checking, like, oh, what colour's coming out top and what have I got? And I think other people similar minded love the stats. Love hate seeing
Yeah, I was going to
totals
say
is
it's a
less
love
so,
hate.
but seeing the breakdown of stuff, maybe not the overall totals, is very interesting. Um, so that was a question I wanted to ask you because you mentioned your career. So firstly, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I didn't really aspire for like a job as a child, and I just there was a little toy kit that was a doctor kit that I played with, but I was never like, I'm going to have a career as a doctor or whatever. I had a very like happy childhood, but I was also quite like self-aware of like being a child. Like there was this instance in the playground where some kid, like I asked some kids if they wanted to play, and they were like, "No, we're 10 now. We don't play. We're just chatting now." And I was like, "You're 10? You're literally 10. We're children. Let's have fun." So yeah, I don't know. There was this probably no one's read it. There's this book that's like a sequel to Peter Pan, where it's not written by the same author. It's sort of like a fanfic, I guess. But the I think they're adults and then they go back and they're children again or something. But the catch is if Captain Hook asks them, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And if they answer it, it means they aspire to grow up, and then they have to leave Neverland. So I'm still there. I'm still in Neverland. I'm like not aspiring to labour. I'm just having fun, you guys.
I'd probably still be there too. Uh, yeah. Um, yeah, so I think I was at a social and talking to someone and they said that you'd had a background in chemistry. So what did you end up doing?
So when I was at college, like doing A levels, so kind of 18, 19, I did like a real range of A levels because I was just doing what I wanted, having a great time. So I did English literature, graphic design, chemistry, and biology because basically they were like, oh, if you can do biology, you might want to do chemistry as well. And I was like, fine, great. So I did those A levels, and then I was basically thinking, what should I do at uni? And I'd done some like biochemistry modules in like both my chemistry and biochemistry courses, and that seemed like really interesting to me, like very sort of like foundations of life stuff. So I got quite into that, and then I ended up doing biochemistry at uni, which was where I met Doug because he also was doing biochemistry, which is quite funny now considering that we're doing something completely irrelevant to that, but that's sort of how it goes. But yeah, Doug and I originally were, even though we were in the same year on the same course, we actually didn't know each other, but we were introduced by a mutual friend on a night out. And then when we got chatting, it was like, oh, what course are you doing? Biochemistry. Oh, me too. Yeah. What year are you in? Oh, first year. What? Me too. Like, and then it turned out we actually sat opposite each other in labs. But I was really like focused on trying to keep all the flies unconscious or whatever ridiculous thing we had to do. So, yeah, I hadn't met him until then. But yeah, so I did biochemistry and then, yeah, worked in labs for a few years after leaving uni. So, yeah, I thought it was quite funny when, so in the Stash Chats interview, I talked to one person who runs like sewing workshops, and they were like, oh, when I'm working with beginners, they get quite nervous about messing stuff up and doing it wrong. And I say, oh, chill out, don't worry about it. It's just sewing. You're not curing cancer. And I'm like, yeah, well, kind of been there, done that, done a bit of cancer research as well.
So would it, now that you've got StashHub and you're doing that full time now, do you miss the kind of doing the biochemistry stuff and lab work? Was it exciting enough that it drew you back one day?
It was very different to how I had kind of imagined it. I think in like, especially like in movies and stuff, science is very fast paced and very much like, we've got to cure this disease, make a vaccine, boom, the vaccine's made the next day. Like, we've got to do this, got to do this. Whereas there's like a lot of waiting around in science. There's a lot of planning. You need a lot of patience and a lot of tenacity. And it can be quite draining, like when things don't work out. Then I was furloughed for a few months, maybe from like, I don't know, August to December, something like that in 2020. And that's when I was like, really like, let's do sewing all the time. Let's join in every single challenge. And I remember the New Craft House did a Sew Sustainable challenge. And that challenge, you had to do a prompt every single day. And I did every single prompt every day. And now I'm like, I couldn't do that. Like, how did anyone even host a challenge with an everyday prompt? But yeah, I just had like nothing going on. So I was like fully into it.
And is that when your sewing journey started, or had you always been creative?
So I bought a sewing machine in 2019. So I already had one because I feel like there was a shortage in the actual pandemic because everyone was like, oh boy, time to start learning how to sew. So I did already have a bunch of stuff, which was good. So I bought the sewing machine kind of on a whim because I wanted to make hammocks for my pet rats.
Of course, yeah.
As you do. It was a pretty random decision, honestly. But I feel like there was something inside me that always kind of wanted to have a sewing machine, but I don't know, I needed that like project to motivate me to do it. I think if I'd gone in and said, I'm going to make my own wardrobe, I wouldn't be doing this now, because I think I would have just got so overwhelmed and like made something and then it doesn't fit well, or I picked the wrong fabric, or I just don't know how to sew. So I think I would have been like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm not the sort of person who's good at like overcoming a massive challenge like all at once. Like Doug is very much like that. If you say to him like, this is a massive thing to overcome, like how are you going to do it, his brain is immediately thinking about it, coming up with solutions, building a whole app, whatever. Whereas me, if it's like, here's a massive challenge, sew your whole wardrobe, I'm just like, whoa, hold up, I don't think I can do this, maybe let's just not. So yeah, starting small and doing like these rat hammocks was really a good way to start for me, because obviously the rats don't care if everything's got holes in, because they're going to bite more holes in it anyway.
And why start with cushions? Like,
yeah, but I think it's different. It's different for different people, isn't it? Because if you say to someone, oh, buy a sewing machine and then spend a year making absolute rubbish like rat hammocks and cushion covers and tote bags, they'd be like, oh God, I'm not wasting my time on this. Like, I'm buying a sewing machine because I want to make clothes. Let's get on and do that. Whereas for me, I think doing those sort of starter projects. So I did all that, the tote bags, the cushion covers. I made some cushion covers out of scuba, which was I just picked it for the print. I didn't know what scuba was. So then I was like, okay, got these weird kind of slippery cushions that slide off the sofa now. They had zips in and everything. I was quite pleased with them, but looking back, it probably wasn't the best fabric choice.
Hindsight, and it's learning. Even if it's eventually, it's fine. So at what point did the idea of StashHub come about then, as you were getting into the sewing?
So I got really into sewing at the start of 2020, basically just before the pandemic. And I'm sure a lot of people will remember that Tilly and the Buttons released the Make It Simple book. Mm-hmm. So I bought that book, and that was like my first kind of dressmaking patterns. And then was thinking, oh yeah, the book's got Simple on the cover. I can make my own clothes. It's going to be great. And then it kind of went from there, really. So during 2020, and then especially like later on when I actually was officially on furlough, I was sort of accumulating lots of fabric. I'd bought fabric online, and because I was really engaged in all of the challenges and the Instagram community, I kind of was discovering more shops as well. And I'd also been to the Stitch Festival like right before the pandemic. So I discovered a few places at that as well, like the Fold Line, Sew Me Sunshine were there, various places like that. And I was listening to the Love to Sew podcast quite avidly as well. So I was basically discovering all these kind of indie businesses, getting really into it, buying all this fabric. And then at the same time, Doug was teaching himself how to code. And in a similar way to how it's much more fun to learn how to sew if you've got a project to work on rather than just sewing lines all day. He wanted a project to practice his coding on, and he'd made me a couple of apps already to help me with problems. So Doug's a big problem solver, so he made me an app to like count cells in my lab job. There was a thing where I had to count cells and then aliquot them into like, there was like a maximum amount, and I had to put on the files how many cells were in there. So he made an app where I like the little cell counter, but it was on the app, and then it would do all the maths for me. So I just have to dilute them and put them in. So he was like, basically he looks for problems so that he can solve them. So he was looking for the new problem to solve with his new app. So then at the time, the problem was fabric accumulating in the house.
We all know that problem.
Yeah. And because I was quite new to sewing as well, and I was like trying to learn about fabric, and I think one of the things you don't realize potentially when you start sewing is how much you don't know about fabric. Like, so when I was, everyone wears clothes, right? Everyone's aware of fabric, but I just didn't feel like I knew a lot about fabric. It was like, this is the soft t-shirt. And now I'm like, well, that t-shirt's a viscose jersey. Or like, this is the stinky t-shirt. Well, that's a poly viscose. So I just didn't, I wanted to know what the fabrics were that I had, and where I bought them online, they have a lot of information about each fabric when you buy them online. So I wanted to kind of keep that information. So I had this really dreadful Word document where I'd copied and pasted in the descriptions of the fabric. And Doug was like, what are you doing? And I was, if you've ever tried to put a photo in a Word document and it's all like, bleh, bleh, bleh.
Word is just the worst. It's just the worst. I'm feeling your pain. I just, ugh.
Like, I wasn't thinking like I need a system. I was just thinking like I just want to have this information so that I know like what the fabric is later on. Yeah. So obviously this Word document thing was terrible, and then Doug was like, oh, maybe you could try Trello. So I did Trello for a bit, and then he was like, this, you could really have like a purpose-built thing for managing your stash. So that was his project for himself, really. He was like, oh, what do you need, and I'll make this app for you. And then then it was really good and I loved it. And then I was like, hey, Instagram, Doug's made me this app, isn't it cool? And everyone's like, yeah, I need that. That does look great. Everyone needs this. So then it kind of became a business from there. It wasn't like we launched it as like a business, it just sort of slowly like built up. Which was, it was really exciting actually. And then, eventually then Doug left his job because he was doing a coding job by then. And then about a year and 4 months ago, I left my job. So now we're both doing it full time, which is really exciting. So it was something that I was like aware of in the Instagram community as well. Like there was a lot of talk about the concept of the stash, and like people saying that they felt overwhelmed, or like, I don't know, they just like, oh, I don't know if I've got this or not, I'm just going to buy another one. I was just like, that's crazy. Like, so I think we just sort of hit on a need for it really, at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, talking to people, like people have their own systems. Like it's good to have your analog systems, people who have little cards and staple a bit of fabric on and write what they are, where they got it, when they got it. I'm all for writing stuff down. I used to have a notebook which I haven't updated in ages for all the patterns. I used to like adding it in there, the size I'd cut out or need to use. I've started a spreadsheet. People use Trello, so it's nice to have an app actually, which slowly using a bit more. So after Walthamstow, it's all gone on there, so I know. And it's for me I love the projects bit, because when I've bought a fabric, I can go, I have bought this for this project. So the patterns I've uploaded are the ones I know I've been doing or about to make. So then I can allocate the fabrics and be like, just to remind myself, this is why I bought it. Like, it doesn't matter if it changes, but this was the original intention. See if
it's not a good feeling when you're like looking in your stash and you're like, what is this? Like, why on earth did I buy this fabric? Like, what was I thinking? If you've got like, I don't know, a massive amount or something, you're like, I must have had something really extravagant planned for this, but I just don't know.
I've definitely got one, and I can't remember whether we chatted about it on Stash Chats, but there's one that's been in there since, probably before I moved into this house. That's been 7 years, maybe just after. But I always intended to make an Eve dress by Sew Over It, because I thought it was a really nice wrap dress for woven. I've not used it. I've used about less than a meter for a top, but not anything since. And it's there, and I still think it'd make a beautiful Eve dress, but I haven't done it.
Are you one of those people that like you're not good at like reusing a fabric because you're like, I kind of already have this fabric in my wardrobe, so I'm not feeling as motivated to sew again?
No, it's just other patterns and fabrics turn up. So it's literally gone to quite literally the bottom of the box. And I know it's there, and I've thought about it more and more the last year or so. So I might get round to it. And then one of the patterns fabrics I picked up on Saturday, I think actually would also make a really nice Eve dress. So my daisy print.
Oh yeah.
I thought actually a nice tee, that's the back, could make a nice wrap drapey tea dress, maybe for SewFizzTeaCated this year, because it's just cute. So that's also why Eve has come back into mind, but we'll see.
Have you made other Eve dresses?
Oh, nope, not made it at all. I don't think I've made a woven wrap or faux wrap. I must have done. I've done lots of knit wrap dresses. No, it's just, again, another pattern that just like, that's bulging.
Yeah.
My patterns are bulging out, and that's after getting rid of a few that I just won't make again. So I need to sort myself out. Is there a project that you've made that you're super proud of, or at least makes you feel a little bit fuzzy inside when you wear it?
I mean, I kind of feel like my latest make is always my favorite. I have got this dress that I made, which is like it's a Lady McElroy fabric, and I kind of hacked the pattern myself, and I've worn that loads, but like to like loads of occasions. I think I've worn it to at least 2 weddings. I've worn it to like the Stitch Festival, and yeah, so that I really like. I think that's really nice, like how it's sort of fancy but also like not overly fancy. I've got a lot of wear out of it, so that's one of my projects that I really like.
Is there any kind of garment that is quite daunting to make that you've not
loads. Yeah, so I've made this like grid it's kind of like a make 9, but like not as specific as a lot of people do a make 9, where it's like I would like to have a go at making like a bra, a swimsuit, and then there's some other stuff on there as well. Yeah, I was going to put a coat on there as well, but I was like, this is getting too much. I don't think I can handle the pressure. Yeah, there's loads of stuff that I haven't made. Yeah, so there's still a lot to learn, basically, but I feel like when I went full-time on StashHub, I was like, this is going to be great. Like, I'm just going to have so much time for sewing, and I can pretend that I'm working, but really I'm just sewing all the time. But actually, it is quite a lot of work to run your own business, so I haven't been doing as much sewing as I'd hoped. And I think to do something really big like a coat or tailoring, or like bag making is another thing that's on my grid. But it's just like so many like different and new skills to learn, and it's like a whole different like rabbit hole to go down as well. And I feel a bit like at the moment my sewing is like my relaxation time, so I don't have like the capacity to like learn loads of new stuff, but I am excited to like learn more sewing skills in the future.
Do you have any shout outs for any small businesses you want to share with us?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Well, I'd say check out the shop section in StashHub, because there's loads of small businesses in there and you can also get a discount on them. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sew Me Sunshine fabric shop. They're like one of the first fabric shops that I discovered when I started sewing, and now they've started doing their like exclusive prints as well, which are like really up my street. So yeah, definitely check out Sew Me Sunshine. And then yes, patterns, there's like so many as well. What patterns that I find work really well for me are Sew Over It. I think the block works really well for me, and I like how their like style has evolved over time as well. Helen's Closet, really good instructions. So one of their patterns was one of the first ones that I did, and I felt like I learned a lot with that. So I did the Ashton top as like one of my first projects, and that was really good. And then is it Chalk and Notch? Yeah, Chalk and Notch I really like. True Bias. I'm often wearing a full True Bias outfit because I'm a big fan of the Danny pants and the Roscoe top. I think that was actually what I was wearing at Walthamstow, True Bias and Danny's. So yeah, that's always a winner as well. But yeah, I always tag the fabric shops and the designers when I post on my Blossom Sandwich account. So if you want to have a nosy at what I've been making, go and have a look there.
Yeah, there are so many good shops out there. So very neutral in getting lots of shop names in there and pattern names. So good work. Are you ready for a quick fire round?
Let's do it.
Quick in the loosest sense of the word, so you're not being timed in any way. Woven or knit?
Woven.
Blue or green?
Both, but I would go blue first because that's just where I gravitate.
I mean, your fabric was both.
It's both, isn't it? Yeah, but it's maybe a slightly more blue.
Oh yeah, yeah. Plain or patterned?
Patterned.
Cat or dog?
Cat.
Early bird or night owl?
No. I'll meet you at sociable hours only. But if I had to pick, I'd say night owl. I'd rather meet you at like 8 p.m. than 8 a.m. for sure.
I don't think we've had a no.
I'm just a sleepy baby. I can't do these unsociable hours. I need my lie-in and my early bed.
It's why Yvette is part of SewFizzTeaCated, which runs from, what is it, 2 till 5 or 1 till 4?
It's a daytime party, you guys. Let me have my sleep.
To be fair, I'm the same. I've got time to get up, have a slow morning, walk the dog, go and have afternoon tea, socialise, back in pyjamas.
I mean, I did see your story that you were up in the gym at like 5:30 a.m. the other day, so I'd say you're leaning early bird.
Oh yeah, no, I am early bird. Yeah. I'll happily go to bed straight after a virtual sewing room to get up early. Especially when it comes to cycling early. Like I could get out the door by 6 for a long cycle.
That's just too keen.
Knitting or crochet?
Well, it has to be knitting because I don't know how to crochet, but I'm also not very good at knitting. My tension's too tight, I'm too stressed.
Thing is with knitting, I can do it, but I don't know how to correct my mistakes. So I try.
Yeah.
I don't. Train or aeroplane?
Oh, I mean, I feel like it's got to be aeroplane just because the train's got a lot of commuting juju on it. The plane's got the holiday vibes, you know.
Yeah, it's very true. Spots or stripes?
No, I'm not really a spots or striper, but I'd have to say stripes more than spots, I think. But I prefer a crazy print or a floral.
As demonstrated today.
Yeah, I've gone crazy today.
I really like it though. It does remind me of, I think the Beatles. Is it one of their videos, like their kind of yellow submarine kind of That's what it gives me. Tea or coffee?
No.
You know, I thought that as soon as I asked it. I was like, I don't think
Yeah.
she's either.
No. I just hate the taste of hot water. It's disgusting.
Okay.
It's different, all right? If I had to choose, I would choose coffee because tea is just like it tastes of the colour brown. And I know this is going to upset a lot of people watching it because I feel like people really love tea, but it's horrible, guys. What are you doing? No.
No, that's fair. You're allowed your opinion. Perfect finish or life's too short?
I mean, I feel like you got to say life's too short because you can't aim for perfect. It's not possible. Like I will unpick things if I'm not happy with them. I wouldn't like life's too short something and then be like, oh no, this is really bad. Like I like for my scenes to line up nicely and stuff like that. But also if I've tried it like 4 times and it doesn't, then I'm like, I tried. Let's move on.
That's a nice attitude. Cakes or biscuits?
Both, but cakes, I'd have to say. A cake's a celebration.
Read a book or watch TV?
Watch TV. I'm convinced all these read a bookers are lying, honestly. Everyone says read a book. No.
Zips or buttons?
Probably zips because less fuss from the sewing machine for a zip. But I do like a button as a nice detail. I'm not a no to either of those. So that would be a both.
Text message or phone call?
Text message. Phone calls out of the blue are so stressful. If you're going to call me, at least send me a text first to say you're going to call me. I cannot cope, like, especially the doctors when they're like, we're going to call you sometime. And you're like, oh, God. And I always miss it. And then, I don't know, then my prescription's always wrong or whatever because they call me at some inconvenient time. Just send me a text, man. That's fine. Do it on my own time.
Sewing machine or hand sewing?
Oh, sewing machine for sure. Hand sewing, who's got the time?
Final one, cream first or jam first?
I go cream first. I think someone else was saying the cream's like the butter layer and then you do the jam on the top. But I know some people put actual butter and then the jam and then the cream. But I think that's just wild.
That is just wild. And that's the end of quick fire. And the dog's kicking off. One moment, please, because someone knocked.
My answer's on the quick fire round, too aggressive.
So aggressive.
Take that, tea drinkers.
No, there were some great answers there, actually. Some very definitive no's. So I think that's kind of the strongest. We have some very strong opinions there, but no, it's great. It's been lovely talking to you today. I'm sure
I've had good fun.
Yeah, glad. Good. And I'm sure I'll see you well before the 18th of October when SewFizzTeaCated's background. And I'm sure I'll be talking to more people from that, from SurreySews, for sure.
Yep. Well, StashHub's going to be at the Stitch Festival in March, so we'll see you at our stand. So that'll be exciting.
I'll see you there. And are you going to have a little SurreySews badge on?
Yeah, if I can fix my badge that fell apart in Walthamstow, put some super glue on it, and then I'll be repping SurreySews as well.
Yeah, I'll see you there on the Saturday. And if not, I'm sure I'll see you around somewhere on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So
See you at the virtual sewing room.
see you there. Cool. Thanks, Yvette.
Bye.